Hello there, my love. So yesterday we were talking about fear in the program, and I want to move on from that and to come up with some kind of solutions, some ways for you to work proactively and productively through your fears. So we started to bring some of them to the surface already. We've done a little meditating around that, and now I want to look at practical steps to address those fears. So I'm going to use the example of a couple of my fears in terms of my path, my purpose, and I'm going to share with you this tool that I came across, which uses the acronym of these different letters of the word fear. So we have the letter F, which stands for fusion, and then we have the letter E, which stands for excessive goals. We have the letter A, which is avoidance due to discomfort. I think we've all been there, we've all recognised that one. And then finally, the R stands for remoteness from your values. So I'm going to talk you through the meaning of these by using one of my examples of my purpose, one of the things that I'd like to do. So let's just move those to the side and bring in my colourful piece of paper. So moving house, that's a really big part of my purpose. I'll talk to you about why that's part of my purpose, because I work from home, and so my whole feelings about my home and being able to create the right space to do my work, do my job, and how it kind of lightens my mood and makes me feel good. My living space is everything. Now, you may have seen snippets of my home on Instagram and things that I've shared in some of my live videos, but you might be thinking, oh, but your home's beautiful. And yes, it's lovely, but there's lots of things that I'm putting up with. There's lots of things I can't do here. And I'm also in a location where I just don't really know many people. So it's not the best place for me to live. It's not the best place for me to do my work. And I have wanted for a long time to be somewhere where I could combine working and my living space. And it's I'm opposite some woods, which has some really great positives. You've got lovely woodland animals, you've got the trees rather than neighbours opposite me and all around me, but it makes it a very dark place. And seeing as my word of the year is light, I don't get a lot of natural light into the house, and I have to have lights on in all the rooms, which is not great for me and my whole kind of sense of well-being. So I've kind of toyed with the idea of moving, and then I always get shut down by the fears that I've got. So let's talk about my fears about the moving house, and let's use this fear acronym, because it's just going to be so helpful for you when you look at your own fears. So the first one, fusion, stuff your mind tells you. Okay, so what is my mind telling me about moving house? Well, it's telling me that this is good enough. This, where I am, is good enough. It's like, what's wrong with it? You've made it really nice. You've made the very best of the space that you've got. It's in a nice, safe place. And you should just accept your lot. You should just stay here. That's my mother talking in my head. That's other people looking at my situation and going, oh, well, I'd love to live where you are. You're very lucky. And I'm kind of feeling ungrateful as well. So I get put off from it by the minute that I actually broach the subject. I start getting shot down by people because they're judging and from their own point of view, or because they're trying to make sure that I don't get myself into hot water, or they just like it suits them for me to live here. Basically, other people, it suits them, including my daughter. So my daughter loves it that I live here because it's just down the road from her boyfriend, so that when she comes home she can meet up with her boyfriend really easily. So there's all those things that are in my mind telling me all the reasons why I shouldn't move. And also I've still got that thing in my head, my daughter used to go to school near here, so I always felt like, I can't move while she's at school. And then she went to do her further education for 2 years, and I couldn't move then. And now her boyfriend's just down the road, so when she comes home she wants to be near him. So I've still got all this stuff floating around my mind telling me why I can't move. Okay, so that's the fusion. it helps to understand, doesn't it, the reasons why you've got these fears. So then, E, excessive goals. So when I think of the kind of house that I'd like to live in, I don't like moving house. So if I think, right, if I'm going to move house, I just want to move one last time, or I want to move to somewhere where I can stay for a long time because I've been here 11 years. So my goal would be to get something that was detached because my neighbours are so noisy. That's a must. Really important that I don't have somebody with a wall connecting to me making loads of noise. I also feel as though if I was going to go and get a detached house, that's just too big a stretch for me right now. And at this age, do I feel as though I want to move and then move again? And so it all feels like it's too much. It feels overwhelming, the thought of moving. Also, the kind of house I want, I keep thinking, does it even exist? Everything. But I've looked a little bit. And then things seemed very expensive and didn't seem to have much more to offer than the house that I've got right now. So it all seems like a very big goal to move house. So let's pop that down there. Some ideas are popping in my head already. So anyway, I'm just going to park those. And then the next one is avoidance due to discomfort. Now, absolutely, I'm avoiding looking at other houses because I'm thinking, well, I don't think that I'd be able to afford them, or I don't think what I want exists, or I'm not even sure where I want to live. I know the kind of house that I'd like, so that is one thing. But the area that I want to live in, I'm sort of thinking immediately, oh, my daughter's going to start saying, I don't want to live there, or I want you to stay where you are. It's perfectly fine for me, for her. Avoidance due to discomfort will also require me to go and talk to lenders about getting mortgages, and then I start feeling uncomfortable about sharing my financial details and having to have accountants look up my finances, and I'd have to earn more money, and then I start thinking about the bills, and I can afford the bills, where I am at the moment, so why make myself uncomfortable? So that's another thing that I'm avoiding doing. And then the last one is remoteness from your values. So my values are all about being secure, being safe. And that the house here, it gives me all of that. So one of my big values is safety. I moved a lot when I was a child and I felt very rootless. We didn't own our own home until I was about 16, and that made me feel really insecure and uncomfortable. We moved around quite a lot. We moved countries, we moved houses, I moved schools. And I don't like that disruption. I like to know where I am. So safety and security and stability is really important to me. So moving house is taking me away from my values of all of that is being offered and afforded to me here, even though it doesn't give me everything that I want. And there's so many things that I'm putting up with in this house. This is why I've tried to make it as nice as possible, so that I can live with the situation. So can you see, when we break it down like that, just how this helps us to understand where these fears come from, why they stop us from doing things? And this will happen with your intentions, with the things that you become purposeful around, the things, before we even start setting any real goals for you and going forward. It's really important for us to face these fears head on and to really dissect them, I think is probably the best way of looking at it. So this is what we do, we say, what is flooding your mind? What's the fusion of all those thoughts, like ingredients that are contributing to you not being able to move forward away from this fear or get over this fear? Write them all down, really face up to them. And, in the process of me telling you all this stuff, it's making me feel uncomfortable. It's making me feel nervous. It's making me feel anxious, which is exactly what happens. And I don't do any more about it. But one of the things that I did feel like unlocked something in me was when I thought of the excessive goal. And I just thought, trying to move into a detached house that has all the space and everything just how I want it, just so, without having to get mortgages and everything, it's just too big a goal, it's too big an ask. So it won't happen. So what if I found somewhere to rent? What if I found maybe a different alternative, that maybe I looked at building an extension on the side of my home, because I have some land at the side. My garden's very big. I haven't looked into that. I haven't explored that as a possibility. So moving is an excessive goal, but maybe putting an extension on, maybe adding light to the side of the house and space that would create the exact kind of amenities that I want could be a consideration. So sometimes we're trying to, like, we want the whole tree, and maybe there's an apple off the tree that would be just fine for the apple pie we're going to bake. It could be like that. And we're trying to get the whole tree, and that scares us. So why not just reach for the apple? And then, avoidance due to discomfort. What have I avoided doing? I've avoided moving. I've stayed put. I've tried to make things work. I've put up with things. And what you have to do is you have to say to yourself at this point with the avoidance due to discomfort is, what is the cost of avoiding? What is the cost of you not making room for the discomfort and continuing to avoid it? What is going to be the cost in a month's time, in a year's time, in 5 years, 10 years' time? To your health, to your well-being, to your whole sense of self-esteem, to everything that you want to do and be in life. You've got to think about, when I'm avoiding being uncomfortable, that is helping me right now, but how is it hindering me further down the line? So write those things down. How is this costing you dearly? So when I tried to move somebody in to live in my home, when I had a partner, he moved in, it was just chaos because there was no space for him because the home wasn't big enough, and that was an issue. So I've got to either be working on my fear of moving if I meet somebody in the future, which I didn't want to move. I was like, you move in with me, and then if I expect the person to move in with me, then there's no room for them. So I'm always going to be holding people at arm's length from being part of my daily life, living in my home, because it's not big enough for them to be here. And that is going to cost me dearly romantically in the long term, for sure. So this is something I have to really think about very, very carefully. And then remoteness from my values. So the moving home, the stretching myself, extending myself beyond my means. My values are to be, at the moment, it's secure. And, generally that's a huge value of mine. So spending a lot of money on my home, so I don't have any money to do anything else, it would make me feel insecure. But if I could save up to have remodeling work done, if I could look into that, or even just look around at houses and see, what is the potential for me? Could I rent somewhere long term? To be open to that, because when you are open, the universe has a really unusual way of bringing things in. So when you just put it out there and you say, this is what I want, this is a possibility for me now. I've shifted my perspective, my energy's changed. When I start to be open to possibilities, the universe can really help you because you're helping yourself. So this is a really great activity for you to do for your own fears. And I've got another example underneath here on the back. So investing in crystals. At the moment, if you follow me on my website and my Facebook page and Instagram, I have a really great interest in crystals and I sell them. But I don't have great quantities of them, and this is something that I've wanted to do, to put some properly branded gift boxes, crystal boxes together, so that people aren't disappointed when they say, oh, I wanted to order that set and you only had 10 of them, so it's sold out. So looking at my fears around this fusion, the things that my mind is telling me is that I'll get stuck with loads of crystals and I won't sell them. So I start telling myself people won't want them. I won't be able to market them properly. What if it all goes wrong and I get stuck with all this stuff? But actually, you know, crystals are very valuable, and even if I just sold them back on at the price I paid for them, I know that I would be able to get my money back. So nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Excessive goals, you know, it's important for me to maybe say, okay, instead of buying 100 sets of crystal boxes, maybe I start with 30 and I see how I go on with those. Maybe I set myself a realistic time frame to sell them as well, rather than expecting them to sell the very week that I launch them. Maybe, you know, say I'll set myself a 6-week timeline for that. Avoidance due to discomfort, it's like, oh, you know, if I just don't research it, if I don't look into all of the packaging options, if I don't look into where I would store them, or getting some kind of shipping company to do it for me, to do all the dispatching, so I'm not standing outside the post office every day posting things. There are drop shipping companies who can do it. And yes, I would lose profit, but it would mean that it would be much more efficient, and my time could be invested more in my business and the day-to-day things that I really love doing. And the remoteness from my values with the crystal is, again, it's risk. It's me worrying that I'll be standing there packaging things and I won't be able to devote myself to my customers and the things that I love doing in my business, because I want to help people. And I don't want to be spending all my time running a business and not being able to do the face-to-face things with my customers that I really love. So my values, I may have to start to look at letting go of control, because I love to control everything. So I always think nobody can package the boxes as beautifully as me. But if I train them to do that, then they will be able to do it. So it's a win-win and everybody benefits. So I hope that you've got something really tangible from this exercise by looking at your fears rationally, by looking at them, literally standing back from them and putting these cards around. This is why I like to do things like this, to have them separately. I love to put something in the center of a piece of paper within a cloud and treat it as, you know, it's important. This fear is important. So it deserves its own space and it deserves its own consideration. And when we treat it as special and important and worthy of our time, the fear becomes almost wants to help us overcome it. It almost wants to cross sides and become on our side rather than fighting against us. And that's the way it feels when we actually dare to explore these things and we dare to start to think of ways that we can either put them to bed forever and go, yeah, that is a fear. It's a very real fear. And I don't want to cross that border, that boundary. I don't want to do it. But at least you've done the work. You've looked into it. You've considered it. You haven't let it scare you off. And that's the most important thing, my loves. To be the decision maker in the process rather than letting the fear rule you. So I hope you'll give this a go, and I'd love to hear how you get on with it. So if you're in the Facebook group, then do please share your experiences of your fears and what came up for you with this. In the comments in the YouTube video, you can post there. It's private, so no one else can see it other than the members of people who are taking this program. And you can also email me any of your comments and any questions that you have. So good luck with doing this activity.